In yesterday's episode, we were sent from Vault 13 by its overseer Jacorian to find a water chip that we can use to repair Vault 13's water filtration system. He pointed us off east, in the direction of Vault 15, a likely candidate for where we can get a replacement chip. Along the way, we stumbled upon a town called Shady Sands. We killed some scorpions, met a few people, and recruited our first companion, Ian. After collecting some rope and some rad scorpion antidote, we can leave Shady Sands and head east for Vault 15. We find Vault 15 4 tiles east of Shady Sands. Like many of the double-digit early model West Coast vaults, it has a similar floor plan to Vault 13. But when we arrive, all we discover is a shack. However, upon entering, we find a well leading deep into the earth. Thankfully, we find a ladder here, so we don't have to use our rope just yet. At the bottom of the well, we arrive in a cave, though a much smaller cave than the one we had to pass through to leave Vault 13. But like that cave, here we also find rodents. Dozens of them littering this small space. After killing them all for the experience, we find the entrance to Vault 15 to the north, and the vault door has been blown completely off. We find it lying on the ground, broken. This vault door is now just a heavy piece of scrap metal. What sort of devastation could have caused this? Well, there is little information about Vault 15 that we learn in the actual game. One source is Katrina, whom we talked with at Shady Sands in yesterday's episode, and the other is in a Vault Locations holotape that we find later in the game. However, the blurb of information we find about Vault 15 is not very useful. Due east from Vault 13, construction on this vault has gone extremely smoothly. Much work was done to reinforce the walls of the third level of this vault to make all the future vault dwellers more secure in the knowledge that in the event of even a major earthquake, the regulatory computers of the vault would continue to function. Recent tours of the newly constructed vault have had many a potential vault dweller walking away with a newfound awe of the improvements done to this already impressive vault. This piece of information, I think, was clearly intended for public consumption. We don't learn anything about the experiment that went on here, and must have instead been marketing or promotional materials. We learned from Katrina at Shady Sands that Vault 15 suffered through some sort of schism. And yes, I am pronouncing schism correctly. I had a lot of comments in yesterday's video saying that it should be pronounced schism, but they're actually both correct. Well, kind of. Schism is the original pronunciation, but schism has become so common, especially in North America, that it is now also considered acceptable. Anyway, whatever happened here at Vault 15 has apparently left it empty. Entering the vault, we find nothing here but mole rats, pig rats, and cave rats. We don't learn much more about the story of Vault 15 other than what we already got from Katrina in Shady Sands. However, the story of what really went on here is elaborated in Fallout 2 and in the Fallout Bible, published by Chris Avalone. Vault-Tech's original plan with Vault 15 was to keep the door closed for 50 years. They wanted to see what the effect was to populate a vault with people who held extremely diverse ideologies and who came from very different cultures. Not exactly the recipe for creating a tranquil vault. After killing everything at the entrance floor, we find an elevator shaft to the northwest, but the elevator car is missing. The elevator shaft is not easily descended without a rope. Thankfully, we brought one from Shady Sands, but each time we use a rope, we lose the rope. So hopefully we won't need to use another one. After anchoring one end to the top of the elevator shaft, we can throw the other down to the second floor. And upon arrival, we find this floor just as infested as the last. This second level, the living quarters, is a treasure trove, especially earlier in the game. In the southwesternmost room, we find a hunting rifle hiding in the bathroom, an extremely useful weapon early on. Back to the story of Vault 15, the varying ideologies, cultures, and personalities vied for power inside Vault 15. This led to 4 distinct factions. The struggle ultimately led to a great schism in 2141. 3 of the factions left the vault, and 1 of the factions remained. It's interesting that we find the vault door blown off here, because it gives us the impression that it was blown off from the inside. And yet, according to the Fallout Bible, the door of Vault 15 was supposed to open 50 years after the bombs dropped. Well, 50 years after 2077 would have been 2127. But the schism didn't happen until 2141, a whole 14 years after Vault-Tech's initial plan to open the vault door. Why did it take them 14 years to blow the door off of Vault 15? Could that reason explain why the door to Vault 76 didn't open until 5 years after its planned open date? At any rate, the 3 factions who left Vault 15 eventually became the 3 major raider gangs terrorizing the wasteland: the Jackals, the Vipers, and the Khans. Incidentally, notice we find a carton of 223 Full Metal Jacket rounds of valuable ammunition, some of the most powerful and versatile even late in the game. We don't know who founded the Jackals, but the Vipers were founded by Jonathan Faust. He left Vault 15 with a group of about 200 people. While traveling, he tripped and fell into a hole filled with pit vipers. He was bitten several times but didn't die, though the poison did cause him to hallucinate. He saw before him the figure of a giant viper, and out of this vision, he turned his band of 200 former vault dwellers into a shamanistic, traveling raider culture. He was so dedicated to this snake religiosity that he named his firstborn son Asp Faust. The raiding nature of the Vipers, however, led to their own destruction. The Vipers tried to raid the Brotherhood of Steel only a few years after leaving the vault. The Brotherhood didn't take their assault seriously, but then Maxon II, the second leader of the Brotherhood of Steel, was grazed by a poison-tipped arrow, and he died. His son then became the High Elder, and the death of Maxon II whipped the Brotherhood into a frenzied rage. But before I explain what they did, I need to pause for a moment. In this third room, we find a locker, and in the locker, another rope. We'll save this for later, and in this same locker, we find our very first piece of armor, a leather jacket. This bumps our armor class from 9 to 17, a significant improvement. I'll take it. But anyway, after the Brotherhood lost their High Elder Maxon II, they pursued the Vipers back to their camp and attacked, attempting to kill every last one of them. And in that conflict, Jonathan Faust died, but his son escaped. Asp Faust then became the leader of the remaining Viper clan, and though they had been weakened by the Brotherhood, they still had enough strength to harass minor towns like Shady Sands. The Vipers were to play a much larger role in the original Fallout, but they were cut from the game. They were planned to have a base called the Shrine. The Shrine was simply a tent campground. However, in the middle of the camp they had a Viper pit, where they would throw victims to the Vipers to watch the Vipers feed. The Khans, the third community that fled from Vault 15, was led by a man who called himself the Death Hand. His original name is lost to time. Almost immediately after leaving the vault, they began to pillage nearby communities. But we'll learn more about them in a little bit. With the second floor explored, we can move towards the second elevator shaft, which we find in the middle of this floor. And as with the last one, the elevator car is missing. But thankfully, we found this handy rope in the locker. We can tie one end to the elevator shaft and throw the other down to floor 3, the command center. To finish telling our history of Vault 15, we can talk about the fourth and final group of survivors. This fourth group stayed in Vault 15 after the Great Schism. However, as we learned from Katrina yesterday, the other 3 groups who eventually became the Raiders of the Wasteland took all of the best gear with them, and so those who stayed found themselves unable to keep the vault in repair. This may explain why we find it in the state it is. And so only 1 year later, in the spring of 2142, the last remaining dwellers of Vault 15 left to found the town of Shady Sands. That's right, Aradesh 20 years ago founded Shady Sands, along with the final dwellers of Vault 15. The raiders who are constantly raiding them are none other than the descendants of the very people with whom they used to live side by side in Vault 15. Now, Vault 15 does make an appearance in Fallout 2, but it's not an important one. It simply serves as a stage for a raider clan. Therefore, the remaining history of Vault 15 is the history of the raider gangs of the West, the Jackals, the Vipers, and the Khans. One could even say that the legacy of Vault 15 is that of Shady Sands itself, and therefore that of the New California Republic. This vault is in complete disrepair. We even see that some of the walls have collapsed, causing cave-ins in many of the rooms. We find a locker room to the southeast. Inside, we can loot 2 lockers, and in one, we find a 10mm SMG with some 10mm armor-piercing rounds. This is a pretty powerful weapon, but remember, we won't give this weapon to Ian because he can't be trusted with burst weapons, and honestly, this early in the game, we really don't have a lot of 10mm ammunition, and burst weapons tend to burn through it, so we'll simply use this in single fire mode for now. Also in one of the lockers we find a couple of grenades, useful for dispersing tightly grouped enemies, but probably wasted on the remaining critters we find here. In the southeasternmost corner of this floor, we find a couple of consoles on the wall. As we get close, we're able to determine that the command and control center is definitely buried under even more rock. We'll have to look for the water chip elsewhere. So after all that, we wasted our time. No, I suppose it really wasn't a waste. After discovering that the water chip isn't here, we earn 500 experience, not to mention the experience we got from all the rodents. Heading over to the western side of the control center, we can examine some of these consoles. We learn that the rest of the vault in this direction has delicate equipment that has probably been ruined and destroyed. There is a very low chance of anything remaining of value, so sadly we can't read any of these terminals. Any logs or information that was kept in Vault 15 has since been lost. But that means that we can't go any further. So with Vault 15 explored, we can climb up the rope in elevator shaft number 1, then climb the rope in elevator shaft number 2 to leave the vault and climb up the ladder to the surface. But what to do now? Vault 15 was the only place Jacorian asked us to check. We have no idea where to go next. Well, we can head back to Shady Sands to rest and sell our goods, but as we arrive, Seth, the gate guard, approaches us in a worried and frantic state. "Thank Dharma you're here, Wanderer," he says. "My girl, that is Tandi, Aradesh's daughter, has been kidnapped. We believe the raiders have her." We learn from Seth that the raider camp is off to the southeast. We can ask for money, and Seth agrees, though begrudgingly. But before heading out, we can run to the hut in the middle of the camp to speak with Aradesh.
"Thank goodness you came. I am in desperate need of assistance. My daughter Tandi is missing. I do not know what to do."
"Have you tried to save her?"
"My people are not skilled in this. Already 3 patrols have gone out to look, but none returned. Will you help me?"
"I'll do it for a fee."
"Of course I will reward you. Bring her and you will receive 500 in hub script. Will you help me?"
Interesting that he calls caps hub script here, because he does pay the reward in caps. I'm presuming it's because the value of the caps are backed by the water merchants of the hub. So maybe in the 2160s, the term hub script and caps are used interchangeably. Okay, who could have taken her?
"Seth and I believe one of the raider clans is responsible. Retribution for our resistance to them. Take this spear. It was found where my daughter was last seen."
All right, I'll check it out.
"Please, talk to Seth. He knows much about these raiders. And Godspeed, Wanderer."
With that, Aradesh gives us a spear, a decent melee weapon this early in the game, extending our reach compared to a simple knife. If we head to Roslow's clinic, we can tell Raslow about Tandi's kidnapping and ask him for help. He then tells us more gossip about the budding romance between Tandi and Seth, but once we convince him that she was kidnapped, he gives us 2 stim packs and some fruit to help us on our journey. Now that we're well equipped, we can leave Shady Sands and head to the raider camp that Seth told us about, which he said was to the southeast. And upon arrival, we discover that this is none other than the camp of the Khans. So the Khans are the kidnappers. Arriving at town, we can put away our weapons, just in case we have an opportunity to talk our way out of the situation. Exploring the nearest tent, we find a bedroll on the ground and a raider walking around, but then the raider says, "Have you come back to kill your son?" Wait a minute, what? Kill my son? What is he talking about? He must be high on something. Moving into the next tent, we find another raider and he says, "It's the Death Hand. He's returned." Death Hand? What is going on with these raiders? Heading into tent number 3, the raider says, "The dead walk again. The Death Hand has returned." Aye, a ghost. Okay, these Khans are characters. In the final tent to the northeast, we find some 44 Magnum full metal jacket ammunition on the ground, and then after taking it, a raider apologizes to us. "Excuse me, Death Hand, I'm sorry to disturb you." Well, it's clear that if we want to find Tandi, we have to head into the building in the middle of the camp. In front of the door is a guard, and the guard says, "Have you come back to kill your son?" What is he talking about? But they're not hostile. Instead, they seem afraid. In the first room, we find more raiders terrified by my presence, and in the second room, we find the leader of the Khans, surrounded by his raiders and slave women, named Garl the Death Hand. The slave girls nearby whisper, "Please help me," and they sob uncontrollably. When we speak to Garl, he says, "I killed you." Now, what has happened here is this particular character of mine has really high luck. And as a lucky guy, it just so happens that I resemble identically Garl the Death Hand's father. Remember, we learned that the Death Hand was the original Khan to leave Vault 15 who founded the Khans. But in their tribal culture, the leaders of the Khans become leaders by killing their fathers. So the Death Hand's son was named Garl. Garl stands before us now. He is now called the Death Hand because he killed his father. I resemble the father. They all think we're the original Death Hand, and so now Garl stands here petrified. We only get this option with a luck of 9 or greater, and if we're wearing the leather armor that we found in Vault 15. We have a number of options to respond. We can say, "Yes, you did kill me, and I've come back to haunt you." He doesn't believe it, but our only option at this point is to say that he's going to join us in hell, in which case Garl and all of the other raiders turn hostile. Or when he says, "I killed you," we can say, "I don't get it." In which case he says, "You would get it if you really were my father, but you're not. You look like he did, but you act differently. No image of him remains to this day. You will just have to be removed." In which case he attacks. Alternatively, instead of trying to haunt him, we can say, "You thought you killed me, but you really should have." Garl says, "Don't tell me what I should have done, father. I rule the Khans now, and you are but worm meat." But clearly his father is not worm meat, because here we stand. If we say we should have killed him when he was a baby, he attacks. Or we can say, "I still live." This evidence is irrefutable, and so he asks us what we want. We can now use this opportunity of confused identity to ask for a request. If we ask him to step down as leader of the Khans, or if we ask him for riches so we can buy our way into heaven, he says never, and he attacks. Or we can say, "I want the girl set free now." In which case he says, "So be it. Release the Shady Sands woman and escort this one out of here." And as easy as that, the cell door opens and Tandi joins us as a temporary companion. Another way to go about this is to try and break Tandi out of jail. Now, if we have high luck and the Khans think that we are Garl's father, we can walk through without them turning hostile. Otherwise, we have to kill the guards at the back of the house and sneak on in through the back. Once at the cages, we can speak with Tandi through the cell.
Oh, it's you again. Are you gonna get me out?
No, I'm just stopping by to say hi.
Oh, aren't we the sarcastic one? Are you gonna get me out or what?
I'm going to fight the Khan leader in exchange for your freedom.
You fight him? You gotta be kidding me. Listen, if you come up with another plan, let me know, okay?
All right, just sit tight. I'm gonna get you out.
Well, what's your plan?
And just wait for the doors to open, then run for it.
That's it? That's your plan? Ugh. All right, but hurry. I heard them talking and I didn't like their plans.
Using our lockpick skill, we can pick the lock. If we don't have high enough luck, we have to sneak her out the back door. But with high enough luck, we can simply walk out the front, and none of the cons do anything about it. Or, if we try to do this without having high luck, when we talk with Garl, we can try to intimidate him into giving us Tandi by first asking for her release, and then saying that we represent a threat that he can't possibly understand. This requires passing a somewhat difficult speech check. But if we do, the cage opens up and Tandi runs to us. Or instead of threatening him to pass a speech check, we could say that it would be good for his eternal soul, but he doesn't really care about his eternal soul, and that leads to violence. So instead we can say, I'll give you something of equal value. In which case we open up a barter dialogue where we see Tandi's face, and we have to place her in the trade menu. We can then type in exactly what she's worth, which is apparently 625 caps, and offer. Okay, that's a good trade, he says, and the cell door swings open and Tandi runs to our side. Or we can challenge him to a one-on-one fight for Tandi. He says that this is a knockout fight. We knock him out, we get the girl, he knocks us out, we leave without her. But in reality, this is a fight to our death. He doesn't just knock us out, he kills us. And this fight is excruciatingly long if we're not spec'd into unarmed. He has 80 HP, and unless we're spec'd into unarmed, we only do 2 to 3 here and there. Now, there is a way to join the Raider gang. If we arrive at the Khan's Raider camp before they kidnap Tandi, we can enter the camp unscathed as long as we do so with our weapons holstered. In this way, we can first talk with Garl's 2 nearby associates. The woman in green immediately to Garl's right is named Gwen. She's an advisor. Her job is to make sure that no lowlifes bother Garl. Next to her is Aaliyah. If we ask her why the Khans attacked the people of Shady Sands, she says, oh, we don't attack those people of Shady Sands because we're from the same place. And because we're from the same place, it's only right that they share with us. So in their minds, they're not stealing and kidnapping, they're just taking what's rightfully theirs. They're sharing in their communal wealth. When we explain that they're stealing cattle the people of Shady Sands need to survive, she again defends her raider actions by saying, look, if losing the cattle puts them in a place of hardship, that's their own fault. They should have planned ahead. She then has the audacity to say that the Khans raiding Shady Sands is important for their health because it gives their dreary lives excitement. We can try our luck with her and say, how about a little kiss? But if we do, she says, kiss this, and immediately attacks. And if we express disapproval of what they're doing here, Aaliyah and the other Khans will attack. But we can then talk with Garl. This gives us an opportunity to tell him that we want to join. However, there are many pitfalls in this conversation. If we say that we're an explorer, or if we say, hey, I like you guys, and I want to bond with you. Any of these options cause Garl and the Khans to attack. In order to join the Khans, we have to navigate his dialogue tree in the following manner. We have to say, I want to join, to kick some serious butt, and then to say yes that we can handle living the life of a raider. If we get to that point, he then tells us that he grows tired of his 2 slave women and asks us to kill them. This is our initiation. The only way to join the Khans is to kill his slave women. There is an unspoken rule here. If we don't kill them within 2 turns, Garl and the Khans turn hostile. So we have to kill them very quickly. Otherwise, we can't join the Khans. If, however, we kill them in time, Garl says, ha! I like your style. A little sloppy, but it works. Consider yourself a friend of the Raiders. Leave my sight now. So we really don't gain much by joining the Khans, aside from 500 experience and our loss of positive reputation. And neither of the slave girls have anything interesting on their inventory. But of course, the alternative is to simply kill every con in the camp. This is very difficult to do earlier in the game, as there are over a dozen raiders in this camp. I actually had to come back at a later date with a much more powerful character to do so, but only by killing the cons do we get the best ending. And the Vault Dweller killing the cons here is the canonical ending of Fallout 1, as this event is referenced in Fallout 2. Once the cons are dead, we can then free the slaves. We do so by simply talking with them. And for each slave we save, we gain 200 experience and +1 reputation. No matter how we choose to save Tandi, she joins us as a temporary companion, and she never leaves our company until we return to Shady Sands. Which means that if we want to, we could use her as a companion throughout the game. Though she's not immortal, she can die, and she's pretty squishy. Neither she nor any of the companions in the game can equip any better armor. We could use the steal skill to manipulate her inventory, but she equips and forever uses the first item we give her, meaning we can't change her weapon after that. But she was never really intended to be a combat companion, so even though we can manipulate her inventory, we can't give her commands. We can't tell her to draw her best weapon, or even tell her to wait. If for some reason we either killed Tandi or allowed her to die during the escape, then when we head back to speak with her father...
Is there something you want?
Oh, nothing, I was just leaving.
I certainly hope so.
Oh, he is not pleased with us. But if she's alive, the next time we arrive at Shady Sands, Tandi walks back into town, and we can check in with Seth, but he doesn't mention it. He only talks about the rad scorpions we killed in yesterday's episode. Nothing about Tandi. When we check in with Tandi...
Hi. I was afraid that you were gone and I wasn't gonna get a chance to thank you for rescuing me. Oh, that was great! Action, adventure! Anyway, if there's anything that I can do for you, you just ask.
We can ask her about Seth, and we learn that the romance between them was really rather one-sided.
Seth's the captain of the guards. My father tried to set us up once, but he is not my type.
We find an option to say, how about you and I, well, you know, get together?
I'm not that kind of girl, mister. Go find a Brahma or something.
And this isn't even a skill check or anything. There's no way to get her to agree. Tandi is strictly principled. Heading back to the center shack, we can check in with Aradesh.
I will be forever in your debt for your courage and bravery, Wanderer. Here is your reward.
Thank you, Aradesh.
Until we meet again, my friend. May the water you find in the desert not shine at you in the dark.
Wow, that's a unique wasteland blessing. In other words, may you not find out that the water you drank earlier today was irradiated. Nice touch. We get 400 experience for returning her, and any caps reward we negotiated earlier. Heading down to Roslo, he says, I heard that you helped save Tandi. Congratulations and thank you. Anytime you need healing, come here. And with that, we explore Vault 15. We learn all about their former inhabitants, the jackals, vipers, cons, and residents of Shady Sands. We rescue Tandi, but we still don't have a water chip. Perhaps we can track one down when we head to the nearby town of Junktown that both Ian and Aradesh told us about. Now, I've actually already completed my episode on Junktown, so you can move right along to episode 3 of this series by clicking here. I'm going to go ahead and put it as the next episode in this series playlist. While you're watching that, I'm going to get to work on the next episode in the series, The Hub. I publish many Fallout videos each and every week, so if you want to make sure you don't miss the next episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. I have a shirt shop with completely unique designs you can't find anywhere else. My designs come in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. My designs come on other products as well, smartphone cases, pillows, posters, mugs, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon for the next episode.